Good morning, everybody. Good morning. I do want to welcome you this morning as we honor this morning the life of everyone here and what this weekend represents, which is the celebration of our labor movement in this country and the unfoldment of that great experience that has done so much for the well-being of all of us. As we demonstrate this, we realize that labor is an interesting concept to work with, primarily because we know that as we give, we receive. And our compensation for our gift is not only manifested in our life from the aspect of what we give multiplied, but the way we give it. So we challenge ourselves every day to honor the concept of demonstration in our life and know that there is something great and wonderful always ready to come forth from within us if we do something. Now, my title this morning is, what is my title? The world is not enough. Now, the world is not enough. Where did I get that? Carrie was funny this morning. She said, what song do you want me to sing? And I said, anything by James Bond. No. No, I was sitting there. I was thinking about Cynthia was putting together the titles for this month, and I had something I was working with, and I said, what would be a good way to explain what I want to talk about this morning? And a James Bond movie came on. The world is not. I said, there it is. Okay. So thank you, James. We have an honor within us ready to come forth, and I think that's probably what we do as we manifest our consciousness. You know, from the great understanding from the Bhagavad Gita, we find the concept of namaste. The God in me greets the God in my world. The love in me greets the love in my world. The Christ in me greets the Christ in my world. So when we honor that, the honoring itself allows us to free ourselves to be what we're saying. And that's the challenge we all have. I love Khalil Gibran. How many are Khalil Gibran fans? Okay. I found The Prophet before I found religious science. And then I found Think and Grow Rich. And then I found religious science, and I said, they put the two of them together. I have had the privilege of being in Baalbek, Lebanon, where Gibran is, where his burial place is, and he is there and very much honored there. It is a tremendous mystical place. Have any of you been to that part of the world, to Baalbek? Anyhow, I recommend, as soon as it calms down over there, take a trip there. You will never forget it. Gibran says in The Prophet, he's talking about time, and he says this: the timeless in you is aware of life's limitlessness, of time's limitlessness. I thought, you know, Shirley must have known what I was talking about this morning when she gave the opening treatment, because she was talking about the limitlessness of the truth of our being, the limitlessness of our possibility. He says, the timeless in you is aware of life's limitlessness and knows that yesterday is but today's memory and tomorrow is today's dream. So if this is true, what are we really responsible for? Everybody say, what's directly in front of me? For 36 years, I've been standing in this lectern teaching this lesson. And it's a very, very important lesson. And every time I repeat it, people will come up and say, oh, I hear it now. This is why repetition is important in what we teach. Everybody say with me, if I want to master where I want to be, I must first master where I am. Now, how many are ready to commit yourself to that? How many have something right directly in front of you that you need to master, that you need to embody, that you need to give your best to? See, a lot of people are putting off their greater good because they're afraid of what's in front of them. They're putting off their happiness, they're putting off their love, they're putting off their wealth, they're putting off their success in life because, why? They are reacting to what's in front of them instead of acting from what's within them. We have a great possibility always unfolding. Dr. Holmes, in the Science of Mind textbook on page 174, says this: demonstration does not depend upon environment. conditions, locations, personalities, or opportunity. It depends solely upon our belief and our acceptance and our willingness to comply with the law through which all good comes to everyone. There's no exception. See, there's nothing in the universe sitting up there, and we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. The idea, see, if your concept of the deity is some boss in the sky, then you have to have rules and regulations to follow. But if your concept of a deity is a principle that Jesus' concepts of it was love, and you know it's love and intelligence, and it's waiting on your next idea, and it will be done unto you as you believe, and your belief system is only based on your concept of yourself, and yourself does what? It believes. So if you want a greater idea of self, then that greater idea comes forth, and as it comes forth, what happens? It manifests as greater ideas, as greater acceptance, as greater love, as greater inclusion of greater good. I was sharing before the service, I was thinking about a way to explain a principle, and I happen to have a documentary on about the Panama Canal and the St. Lawrence Seaway. I was very fortunate. I was in submarine service for 4 years, and when I was in submarine service, we had a very interesting invitation that was one of the great experiences of my life. We opened up the St. Lawrence Seaway, along with another submarine and 2 destroyers and a cruiser. And we went through the St. Lawrence Seaway into the Great Lakes and spent an entire summer. And you haven't lived till you've been on a submarine going through the Great Lakes. What is that docking in our port? Okay, anyhow, it was an interesting experience. But the interesting thing, how many have ever been through Panama Canal or St. Lawrence Seaway or any of the canal? Okay, now something interesting happens. If you go in, you see one of the lakes is what? I think it's 22 feet higher than the lake before it. So what do you have to do? You have to go in the lock, they close it, and then the ship, or in my case the submarine, they fill it with water, and what does it do? It rises up until it's at the level of the next lake, and then they open up the gate and you go out. Now, everyone say, water, metaphysically, means consciousness. See, go back to Noah and the ark. What did he do? Noah got in the ark, took 2 of everything, male and female alike, and did what? Got higher than the consciousness around him. Okay, now the same thing. When the ship is here and it wants to be here, they do what? Put more water underneath it and it rises up and then it goes forward. Same thing in your life. See, we're told to look into the hills. What does that mean? It means to do what? Raise your consciousness. Everybody say, if I raise my consciousness, everything in my life will raise. We'll get higher and happier and healthier. See, that's what you need to do. Just raise consciousness and everything goes up with it. 2,000 years ago, a very interesting and wonderful teacher said, if I be lifted up, everything around me will be lifted up. What do you think he was talking about? You see, our challenge is not to do what? Not just defend ourselves against what's in front of us. Get higher than it. Get clearer than the nonsense. Get freer than the limitation that you're reacting to. So what? How many had a reaction to a negative experience? Say with me, it seemed appropriate at the time. Okay, so what do we want to do? We want to get higher than the experience. We want to free ourselves from yesterday so we can move into a tomorrow greater than anything we've ever known before, because that is the correlation of the great experience that we call life. I love it, and you've heard me say this before, as Dr. Holmes was at USC speaking before a philosophy class. And one of the students raised their hand and they said, Dr. Holmes, would you please explain religious science in 25 words? And he said religious science is a correlation of the laws of science, the opinions of philosophy, and the correlation of all religions as applied to the needs and aspirations of mankind. Okay. Philosophy, religion, science. all finding a golden thread. You know, if we look for the golden thread and everything and we find it, what happens? We discover that it doesn't have dogma, it doesn't have creed, it doesn't have ceremony, it doesn't have anything but truth. Know the truth, it'll set you free. Well, if you are free, why do you spend all your life trying to get to freedom? If you are truth, what are you sitting around trying to discover truth? You see, the attempt to discover it is keeping it away from you. We have shared that everyone can be a Buddha. Why? Because we can all wake up. Thank you, Alan Watts. Thank you, Ernest Holmes. Everyone say, I choose to wake up.
I choose to wake up.
Okay. Now, our challenge over and over and over and over is to make sure that we're not just dreaming we're awake, but we're awake. That we are awake to truth. Now, if you're awake and there's something wonderful in front of you to do and be and experience, what are you going to do with it? Are you going to drag yesterday into it as far as your planning, as far as your unfoldment? Or are you going to do what? Give the best of yourself to what? Yourself, as Shirley so beautifully stated in her wonderful, wonderful opening treatment. Your definition, waiting to become improvement, is always ready, willing, and able to do what? Unfold. Unfold as now. We find ourselves celebrating the life that we are. When we become celebration in action, I love the notes that we have, and Reverend Dar used it also. What I have in my hand here is, when Dr. Raymond Charles Barker passed, he was packing his bag to come here to do a Sunday. And they found his notes that he was going to use for the lecture he was going to give here. This was back in 1988. And our dear friend Lloyd Tupper, who, by the way, will be here to do a Sunday service in October. But Lloyd gave us this, and we celebrate this. Yesterday ended last night. Only the negative should go. Take time to look and think. The past is great with good. Interesting to meet your past, but you can't return. It's interesting to meet your past, but you can't return to it. Okay. How many know people who are living their life at the level of the good old days? Okay. Everyone say, if I live my life at the level of the good old days, I am in a good old days. How many people do you know that are in a good old days? Okay. Oh, it's so good, so good. Yeah. If you think it was good, read the book Help. If you think the good old days were good, if you think the good old days were happy, read the book Help. Okay. And find out, maybe it wasn't as happy as I thought it was. But whatever it was, it got us here. And wherever we are now, it's going to get us there if we do what? If we pay attention to what's in front of us and do what? Be not conformed to the world, be transformed by the renewing of our mind, which means what? The world's not enough. The world's not enough. See, there's something wonderful for me to do today. There's something wonderful for you to do today. Now, why spend your time, grinding on yesterday? Why not find the wonderful within you and give it to what's in front of you? How many know people are letting yesterday get in the way of what they could be and do today? What they could have today, what they could experience today? The challenge we have over and over again is to know that the spiritual force is our way of life. Everybody say, the spiritual force, is my way of life. Now, why do we need to know that? We need to know that because we are the creative process. And since we are the creative process of the universe, which Thomas George said so beautifully, since we are the creative process, then we should pay attention to what we're giving, what? Our experience, what are we giving it to do? What am I giving my now? What am I giving to the world around me? Everyone say, I direct my inner environment.